You can affect the way that people treat you. You can actually cause other people's behavior to change just by working on yourself. I know it's difficult to believe that other people's behavior can be affected by you removing some pain or negative emotion or negative thinking from yourself. But it can be done, and I can teach you how to do it. Welcome to the second video. My name is Arnoux Goran. In the first video in this series, I talked about the number one and only rule of having amazing relationships. And if you haven't watched that video, pause this one and watch that one first, because I'm going to be building on top of the first video. And I really want to help you to have amazing relationships. This is the second part. So go ahead and watch the first part and then come on back if you haven't. If you've watched it, you're in the perfect place at the perfect time. You probably remember from the first video that you are responsible for your feelings and no one can make you feel anything. And what's really beautiful about that is that other people then become your mirror. How they react and respond to life can then trigger things in you. And if you're responsible for how you feel, that person is your mirror. They're showing you something in you to work on. Just like in the example of Michelangelo and the statue of David, they're showing you a piece of stone on the beautiful, perfect design that you are, that you can remove to really be your authentic self. And what happens in life is you'll have someone push your button. They'll do something, they'll say something, they'll cut you off in traffic, they'll look at you and they won't smile, something, or they'll even be mean to you, and you'll get your button pushed, which means you'll have a negative emotional response to the circumstances around you or to their behavior. Now, the natural or the common thing to do is say, they made me feel this way. And the number one rule is they can't make you feel anything, but they can push your button. And when someone pushes your button, they are now mirroring to you your issue to work on. They're showing you who you're being. They're showing you what's off in you. And if you can take it that way, of course, you're going to transform and become someone even more amazing than you've known yourself to be up until now. But it also can affect your relationship with them when you work on yourself. Now let me make it really clear to you, there is a way to remove buttons permanently. Maybe you've been told there is no way. Maybe you've tried a lot of different ways and they didn't work, or they only worked temporarily. Well, that's mostly what you'll find out there in the world. But there is now a way to remove buttons permanently. It's called the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself. And there are actually 3 other tools that you'll learn from me that will help you to remove these buttons in a permanent way. And what happens when you do that? What happens when someone is mirroring to you an issue and then you clear that issue out? There's 3 things that could happen. The first thing that could happen is that that person's behavior actually changes and they stop being the way they were being. The second thing that can happen is that they still act the same way, but you're no longer affected, like with me and my grandma, because you don't have the button anymore. The third thing that can happen is they actually disappear from your life. Let me give you an example. So the very first person that I taught the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself to was named Tamara. And I taught it to a lot of people before that, but none of them could get it. It's literally taken me over a decade to figure out how to teach it so that 100% of people understand it and can use it. One of the biggest schools in the world, the University of California, Irvine, which is currently the 42nd ranked school in the world, studied my program. And in their study, they found that 100% of the participants said they released negative emotions permanently and that they could do it on their own after. So I have figured out how to teach it to everyone. And Tamara was the first one who actually got it, way back in 2003. And literally, the day after she learned it from me and understood it, she said to me that day that I taught it to her, Arnoux, I've been looking for this for 10 years. I've taken so many courses. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars. You figured it out. And I said, yeah, I know. So the next day, she calls me at midnight crying. We were very close friends, obviously. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, my mom, I'm going to kill my mom. I want to blow her up. I need a bazooka. I need a tank. I want to blow my mom to smithereens. And I said, what happened? Well, she had been living on her own since she was 18. She was 33. So for the first time in 15 years, she moved back home to her mom's place and her ranch in Palm Desert in Southern California. And when she got there, her mom told her, well, I use your room as a guest room, and I have since you moved out. And I've got friends coming here next month, so they're going to stay in your room, and you're going to sleep on the couch while they're here, okay? And she just got so triggered. Her button got pushed to the max, and she literally wanted to blow her mom up. Those were her words. I want to blow her up. I need a tank. I said, okay, let's start clearing this out. So we did the 7 steps, and we started erasing and erasing and erasing all of her anger and her rage. And then there was fear. And what she was afraid of was that her mom's friends would steal her stuff out of her room. Her sacred personal stuff, like her jewelry and her clothes and things that mattered to her. Even her books. And as we kept clearing and clearing and clearing the layers, and it didn't take that long. The average time to clear something is 20 minutes. Some things take a lot longer, some things take less time. The average is 20 minutes. She says to me, I remember what happened. When I was 7 years old, all the girls in my first grade class were really into lip balm, and they all had lip balm, and I never had any. And one day I finally got my lip balm, and I couldn't wait till lunchtime to show all the other girls in class my lip balm. And when it was lunch, I went into my bag to grab my lip balm, and it wasn't there. Somebody had stolen it. And then I didn't say anything, and so I felt like a chicken. And I was like, wow, that's a really interesting beginning to your pattern. She said, yeah. And actually, every boyfriend I've ever dated and all of my siblings have all stolen from me throughout my life. So that's a repeating pattern. That's what happened. So she started repeating the pattern of having people steal from her. I'm sure you're thinking, that would never happen to me. My siblings wouldn't all steal from me. Not every person I've dated has stolen from me. But that happened to her because that was her pattern. She was actually attracting that recurring experience. So we finished clearing out the whole thing. And then we created the new programming to take the place of the old programming, which is part of what the 7 steps does. Then there's a way to make it permanent, which is really unique to my process. The next day, she calls me and she says, I cannot believe what happened. I woke up in the morning and I realized that across the hall from my room is this other room that my mom uses for storage. It has a bed in it, but there's boxes everywhere and the whole bed's covered with boxes. So I took all the boxes out and put them in the big storage outside because there was room out there. And then I just saw this room had a bed with a covering and pillows, but no decoration. So I decorated the room from other parts of the house and created the Southwest style bedroom. And I said, Mom, I want to show you something. And I showed my mom, and she said, oh, Tamara, this is so nice of you. Do you want me to put a lock on your bedroom door? And she said, I don't understand, Arnoux, why my mom changed. She was being such a raging you know what I mean? She was being awful. She was terrible. She was being such a jerk. And now this morning she's being so nice and she actually offered to do the thing that I wanted. I didn't even tell her that that was what I wanted. I wanted a lock on my door. And she offered it without me even saying that that was what I wanted. When just yesterday she was being terrible. I don't understand how me changing could cause her to change. And I said, Tamara, you were being a certain way. You were putting out a certain energy. You were putting out a vibe. And it was very prickly, very defensive, very angry. And so your mom responded directly to that vibe. She responded also being defensive. She had a matching issue with you. But when you got rid of your anger and fear and all that stuff, and you chose to be something else, which obviously was productive and clever and intelligent and all kinds of great things that you created to be, your mom responded to how you were being someone else in a different way, naturally. Of course she responded differently, because you were being different. Now, how it works energetically is like one person has this emotion that we would call the button, and it's like a rock of energy inside of you. And the other person has a rock of energy that acts like a matching magnet. One's positive, one's negative charge, and they attract each other. If one person gets rid of their magnet, the other one's deactivates. And so your mom's issue, her anger that she was displaying yesterday, it's still there inside of her. It's just not triggered anymore because you yourself are not pushing her button anymore because you don't have the matching issue. She was like, oh, I totally get it. So this is an example of when someone else's behavior changes because you cleared something of your own. Just like with me and my grandma, which I covered in the first video. But I said there's two other things that could happen. Let me give you another example. So Ernest is this great guy. He was a junior deacon at his church when I first met him. And after going through my training for a year, he became the pastor of his church, which I was pretty proud of because he said he wouldn't have done that without my help. Ernest is this amazing guy, very kind, very talented. And his day job was helping people who were at risk for HIV to get tested. Very noble job if you think about it. And one day during our training, he said, I don't want to go to work anymore. And I said, why not, Ernest? And he said, because there's this gangster at work that always attacks me and everyone else too. and I can't stand him, and I don't want to go there and see him anymore. And I said, well, Ernest, how does it make you feel that this person behaves this way? He said, I feel really angry. I said, okay, Ernest, your job is to use the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself and clear the anger before our next teleconference next week. At that time, we were doing a weekly teleconference. So the next week, I asked for Ernest to come on the call. Ernest, can you share what happened? Did you clear your anger? He said, yeah, I did the 7 steps. All my anger was gone. And then the next day, when I went to work, he didn't work there anymore. I said, he didn't work there anymore? No, he quit. He's gone. He doesn't work there anymore. He disappeared from Ernest's reality. I have lots and lots of examples of exactly that. They literally just go away because now they don't have that attractive magnet that drew them into your experience in the first place. This explains why we keep attracting the same problems in our love life, where the person has the same issue as the person before and the person before, because we have a magnet in us that attracts that same pattern. And that's how you break the pattern, is you clear out your own self, not focus on the other person, because you're going to keep just attracting the same thing, just in different people. The third thing that can happen is that they are the same way, but you're not affected. And that's actually what happened with my grandma. I misspoke there. She still said, I wish you'd get your life together, but I wasn't bothered anymore. And I have a good example of that one. I actually have a lot of good examples of that one. One of my favorite ones is back in 2005, this gal that worked at a real estate office said, I don't like going to work because there's this girl there that always says these really annoying things and really ticks me off, and I just don't want to go to work because I don't want to see her. And I said, use the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself and erase all the feelings that she triggers in you. So the next week also was a teleconference. She comes back on the phone and she says, you're not going to believe what happened. I erased all my feelings. I went to work, and that same girl came up and stood right in front of me and said the same stuff that she always says, and it didn't bother me at all. In fact, I felt like laughing because it was so silly that it bothered me in the first place, and that she was still saying the same stupid stuff, and it wasn't even worth saying. And I just was completely not bothered, and it's so freeing and empowering. And then she said, can I use this on my in-laws? Right? There's so many good examples of how working on yourself can affect people around you. I'm going to give you one more because you're going to see that not only can it affect one person, but it can actually affect a whole family. So I had this lady, Janet, come to my course in 2017, the 3-day 7 steps to reprogramming yourself course, which you can watch online too. And during the course on Sunday, which was the 3rd day, she gets up on stage with the microphone and tells everybody in the big auditorium that the reason why she signed up for the course was that she had been yelling at her husband since she was 22 years old, and she was 60-something. So for over 40 years, she'd been yelling at him, knowing the whole time that he didn't deserve it, but she couldn't make herself stop. And so she wanted to come to the course to get rid of that. And so she worked on it on the 2nd day, and she thought all the anger was gone. So then she went home, and she found that her husband was very upset. He had gotten into a big fight with their son and grandson. And so she was listening to him tell her the story, and she said, I was waiting for all the things to come in, and for me to start getting angry, and for the thoughts to come in to yell at him, but nothing happened. Nothing was coming in. I was just listening, and finally when he was done talking, all I heard in my mind was, just be calm. So I told him, I said, just be calm. So I called my son, who's usually very rude, and he said he was sorry, which never, ever, ever would he have ever done that before. Then I called my grandson, and he insisted on doing FaceTime with his grandfather so he could apologize to his grandfather's face. This had never happened before. This type of situation occurred in my family often, and usually would go on for days and days and days. And it was literally gone in minutes. It was amazing. And then she said, but I really knew it was gone when I saw the ants. Because my husband, she said, would kill the ants in our house with Windex and just leave them there all dead. And it used to make me so mad! And when I saw the ants, I didn't get mad. I just cleaned them up. And that's how I knew that it worked. And so, in this case, Janet's working on herself actually affected her whole family, not just the other person that she was matched with, because the whole family had a matching pattern that was spinning around and continuing to replay. And she cleared the pattern by healing herself. Isn't this powerful? That you can actually take power in your relationships and change them by following the first rule, which is I'm responsible for all my feelings. Of course, you have to learn how to get rid of your buttons, but it's so I think, inspiring to know that you can cause that much of a change in your environment and with the people that you love and care about just by working on you. Now, in the next video, I'm going to share more about this. I'm going to talk to you more about the ways that you can get rid of all the baggage that you have and how repeating patterns occur and where they come from. We're going to get into some more, I would say, exciting information about intimacy. Would you like to know how to create amazing intimacy with someone? Whether it's a child where they feel like they can tell you anything, or your lover, because wouldn't that be great? So that's what's going to be coming up in the next few videos. Keep watching. My name's Arnoux.